I'm Ellie. I work at Willington Prep School. It is a small independent school in Wimbledon. And I think using this wonderful tool for your school council is probably the best thing actually that I've ever introduced into the school, and mainly because sometimes school council is something that people don't really understand what to do, haven't got time, or just can't fit it in, and it's hard to find something that goes right down from reception all the way through to year 6, and we've got nursery as well who do it as well. So it is a really useful tool. I would also just say that if you ever email Smart School Councils, they do get back to you straight away, so they are great for communication as a company. So what's worked well with Key Stage 1 here is that we've really got to make sure that all the questions are suitable right down from reception all the way through to year 6, and that's always quite challenging. And one way that I've done it is quite often manipulating it to kind of find out information. If my head's giving me a task that I need to do something towards the environment, well, then we're going to have a question this week about the environment to know what I can do or what needs to be done. You also need to make sure, as with Key Stage 1, is that when you are doing it, make sure there is always a teacher there to guide them through it. So when they get to year 3, for example, in my school, the children start taking more ownership. They start typing on the computer or taking the notes themselves, whereas Key Stage 1, generally the teachers tend to do it as well. I think the other thing to remember is that you have to make this work for your school. So we are a small school, not a very big school, so we don't have all the different sub-teams as well. We just have our school council, and they effectively become our action team as well, which works in a smaller setting, and it might work that way for Key Stage 1 as well. I would also say, when you do your questions, when you set your questions, where possible, always put a YouTube video in, make it as visual as possible, because the children love that, and that just helps to engage them just that little bit more. I would also, if you can, if you do newsletters or if you have a school website, try and have a section for school council and put up the question of the week that you used and the answers, because that will encourage parents then to follow it up at home and say, oh, little Johnny, you did this today. What was the outcome? What did you learn? Or, whatever it was. And it just gets the conversation flowing at home about school council too. So more top tips. It is important that you try and make the whole school feel engaged. When we're thinking of questions, when we can't think of anything, often we use the suggested ones, and quite often there'll be a topic that, it's not suitable for reception, so we don't do that. We try and stay, on anything that's school related, or anything that we feel, if it's a person, for example, well, let's make sure that reception are going to know who this person is we're talking about, and year 6 are going to know as well. I also go into assembly every week before we set the question and send it out, and just remind them who their school council is, remind them that we're going to send you a question and it's based on perhaps a theme, and also remind them just to give sensible answers and realistic answers as well. Never make any promises, because, as you know, children will always hold you to whatever you say. So don't promise that you've got a massive budget and you're going to. One of the things we did, we asked if they used to have a tuck shop. We said, oh, would you like our tuck shop back, a healthy tuck shop? And as soon as you mention this tuck shop, well, every day they say, when's the tuck shop? When's the tuck shop? So don't make any promises. You'll just say to them that you're getting your ideas and we're listening to you, and we're seeing what we can do for you. So like I said, mention it in assemblies and anywhere around the school where possible. I've also found that it is a massively amazing tool for any kind of evidence for Ofsted or for inspection as well. And they are really hot on this voice of the school. What do the children think? Having this voting system, it's a really amazing piece of evidence to use. And like I said, choose your questions around what it is that you want to promote, or your focus of the school. for example, we wanted to focus on having something towards being an eco school. So we set up a plant growing competition, and we got their thoughts to start with. Our question was, how would you feel about having a plant in your classroom? And of course, everyone goes, yeah, a plant. So then we set it up as a competition. So our action was to give every class a plant and look after it, and the head teacher would come around and judge it at the end of term to see who had looked after their plant the best. And actually that was a competition in itself. It was a way to get the head teacher involved, a way to get the staff involved, it was a way to get the children talking about this plant in their room, and it was just a lovely sense of community that was created by having one question. What else? In terms of getting the staff engaged, yes, mention it assembly, but also if you have staff meetings, just mention it there as well. As long as you keep banging on about school council and, you know, listening to the child. And it's, I found, probably shouldn't say this, but with my head teacher, when he said, well, hang on, you want to put goalposts up in the playground, well, why? So I'll say, well, because that's what the children want, that's what they've asked for. And by the way, here is my evidence because I've asked them. So it's a really useful tool to back up anything that you want to implement into your school as well. Some of the questions that we put out were, what is your preferred way of fundraising? So did they want a cake sale? Did they want a mufti day? Did they want whatever it was? And actually, instead of school council do it, we then passed that over to our PTA, our parent group, and said, oh, the children would like this. Would you like to organise it? You know, and then they take over the work for it as well. Another one was being COVID safe. And that was a really important one, because then we could go back to parents and say, oh, the children have said they do feel safe at the moment because we're doing hand sanitizer or whatever it was that was going on during lockdown as well. The other one was, a good one is, what activities do you enjoy most in the school? And you can put that out at Easter time, you can put that out at Christmas time, and that also kind of directs the teachers into, oh, this is what I need to plan for. My children have all come back and said that they want a cooking activity at Christmas time, therefore we better do a cooking activity. So it does help direct teachers with their planning as well. And that's it. So do make it work for your school, because it is a really great, useful tool to use.
Thank you for that, Ellie. Really great points there. It seemed as well, it's quite similar in the way Devinder's message about that kind of getting everybody involved in the discussion. And I love the way you were saying, you involve the families, you let them know what's happening, and kind of creating that kind of whole community discussion sounds like a really, really positive way to use a class meeting tool. And if you get some goalposts out of it, even better. So yeah, great to hear.
Yeah, someone just asked on the chat, do you run your class meetings in house groups? No, we run it in our form time. So it's a sort of a 10-minute activity that's a great fill-in, and teachers tend to find they like to do it at the same time every week. And it's sort of one of those great ones that you can do in form time, or, you know, if you've got that 20-minute break before you go home, it's quite a nice fill-in time then. But I would try and roll your question out at the same time every week, so the teachers and the children get used to it.